Hello everyone, I'm Inverse, and after taking a month off, I'm finally back with another installment in the build order breakdown series, with a focus, of course, on the Volks Volks Sniper MG build order. Because I accidentally did 2 games from South Langres, I will finally be doing my North Langres game, and then we will be moving on to Seph and Stursdorf, and I believe those are the last 2 maps I have to do. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure those are the last 2 maps. That'll be 3 more videos, 1 on Seph, 2 on Stursdorf. So definitely look forward to those. I really plan on not having a month-long break in between each of those episodes. Hopefully I'll be able to get another video out within a few days after this one, and then maybe a week before the last 2 are released. But without further ado, let us get on with this game. It is, of course, a US versus Wehrmacht. Myself in the north as the Wehrmacht player. Ruka's Guderian down here in the south as our proud American player. Let's get this started and just kind of talk about this map real quick here. Of course, I already covered the southern build. A lot of players really like the south of this map for Wehrmacht, and the main reason for that is this plus 16 munitions point right here, which is very easy, relatively speaking, to secure. Of course, I personally feel with this build it's rather difficult to get a hold of, simply because you want to be focusing on that right hand side. The plus 16, of course, as you can see on the left hand side of the map right there. Now, I personally feel that North Langres is my absolute best map for this strategy. The last time I lost with this strategy on this map in these starting positions was against Contador probably 6 months ago. It's I'm very comfortable on this map with this strategy. It fits my style very well. It also fits the strategy very well. It's unfortunate that in tournaments games start from the south for Wehrmacht, so I will not be undefeated in tournaments if I ever get to play a tournament, because they're always at terrible times for me. Anyways, Wehrmacht quarters up, getting the first Volks out. A little bit of a different capping order. A lot of players are going to build and then send a Pioneer over here to cap, and then down this area, and another Pioneer down here, and then cap with the Volks in the middle. I prefer to cap with my building Pioneer in the middle, and then cap these 2 munitions point. This is something I picked up from Wu, a clan member of mine, and a clan mate of mine rather, and a GR tournament champion actually, who is very popular for using this strategy and is very well known for using this strategy. Now, I send my Volks all the way down to this fuel point because this is exactly what I want. I want to cut off this engineer. I want to keep him from capping this point at all if I can. I want to put a little bit of pressure on my opponent, force him to react, and I have the stronghold of this building. This building is the centerpiece of your defense on the right-hand side for the entirety of the early game. You're going to base everything around this building. You need this building for Volks, you need this building for Pioneers. You do not want your opponent to get in this building. You absolutely do not want your opponent in this building before you have a sniper out. Once you have a sniper out, it's not too bad because you kind of put a timer on any units in buildings, because you can pick them off at a pretty safe distance, and you can keep your Volks up here defending and all that nice stuff. But in the very early game, you absolutely want to be able to control this point. Meanwhile, this little bit of wire down here is something I've been doing recently after watching some tournament games. It's a nice little slow down tactic. Of course, as you notice, my opponent could actually get green cover if he stands right up there, but the chances of him getting green cover are a lot less than if there wasn't that wire there. So if you're not doing anything with your Volks, definitely something to try out. In the meantime, we have, I'm going to pause right now and just point something out. What do I see right now? 1 engineer, 2 engineers, and 3 engineers. This speaks a lot to a 4 engineer start. Furthermore, the fact that we haven't seen a rifle yet. I have 2 Volks on the field already. The timing of 4 engineer rack starts when you have 2 tier 1 units in a standard tier 1, so 2 Volks in this case, your opponent will have 1 rifle. The second Volks finishes right at the exact same time as the first rifle in this build. So now that I'm pretty sure he could be going for a 3 engineer. I've only seen 3 engineers. He could be going for 3 engineer, but given the capping he's had on the left-hand side, I'm assuming, if we open up the tactical map, I'm assuming that he has the entirety of this left-hand side, and is also capping a little bit on the right-hand side, harassing me over here, and just kind of spreading me out, trying to cut me thin. and get into as many favorable engagements as possible while still cutting me off and harassing territory. That's the main goal of the 4 engineer rack start, and it's very, very powerful in my opinion against a Volks Volks Sniper MG build. Now let's get this going again. So now that I have identified this is the point in the game where I say, hey, you know, he's probably going for a 4 engineer. I actually thought during this game that it was a 3 engineer, because I only ever see 3 engineers at a time, but I'm going to know right away right here that it's 4 engineers, because this 4th engineer coming down there, 2, 3, and the 4th down here. So I know it's 4 engineers now. He's doing a very, very good job of cutting me off. I do know that I am going to have a superior fighting infantry force for the time being, but that I'm going to have to be really, 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 really careful once he gets a few flamers and I get my sniper out, because I'm going to be fairly vulnerable. That's of course the really, really dangerous part. As I've mentioned in a lot of my other videos, that is the danger zone in this strategy against standard builds. Against this build, it's even stronger and even more dangerous, just because of the intense flanking capabilities of multiple flamers, multiple engineers, and just the 4 engineer rack strat in general. Now I'm going to want to be laying as many mines as possible. This mine right here, you generally want to lay right after you cap this +10. You're going to have the 25 munitions the moment you cap the +10. You're going to want to lay one right there. This is also a very, very good spot. You can also lay them here, here, anywhere that there's a slight choke. So over here, down here, of course, all very, very, very good mine locations. Now a lot of action going on right now, nothing too important. With a 4 NG rack start, you generally don't see weapon support centers come off that. Now he is harassing me a lot. I'm not too worried about this fuel. He's actually, I think, going to be able to decap this fuel. It's not too big of a deal for me, because I am of course going for tier 2, and I know this straight off the bat, unless my opponent does something super greedy and lets me keep these fuel points while still harassing my opponent, which in this case he is obviously not allowing. Now I am after my standard 2 Volks Sniper MG, gonna get a med bunker up. I tend to get the med bunker up before my tier 2 research. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. It usually depends on the positioning of the pioneers and just kind of where my units are at any given time. But generally, ideally, you're gonna want to build the bunker the moment you have 150 manpower, right after building your MG. And then tech the tier 2 right after that. Now if we look in the middle of the map, I'm focusing on these VPs. VPs very, 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 very important on Langres. Generally games do devolve into VP chases. This game actually going to do pretty much the exact same thing. And looking at what my opponent is doing right now, we look at these 2 squads, both 5-man squads. And as I mentioned in one of my South Langres games, I believe the South Langres commentaries on this strategy, when your opponent pokes out with unreinforced squads, like think about it, 2 squads, that's 54 manpower. That's not a big investment, but it is a big investment if he's teching up, if he's getting something like a weapon support center or a motor pool. Generally it's a motor pool. Weapon support center is a little bit risky, just because you're never guaranteed a counter snipe. It's always a coin flip, just because if a good player is microing his sniper well, he will always have it on the move after a shot, and a moving sniper has a 50% accuracy modifier against it or something like that. It's a 50% chance to counter snipe a moving sniper with a sniper of your own. Now, as you notice, keep my munitions down as much as possible. I'm not getting a med bunker yet, because I'm really, 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 really worried about flanking. Flanking is your main concern against a 4 NG rack start. And secondly, I'm worried about tech. And the reason I'm worried about tech, more specifically in M8, is these 2 rifle squads I saw pushing up here with no reinforcement. The fact that I've really only seen 2 rifle squads. Generally, you see 3 rifle squads. 3 rifle squads in a 4 NG rack start is the exact same price as 4 rifles and 2 engineers in a standard build. So that's kind of the standard. That's what you're going to be looking to see. If your opponent skimps on that, it generally means he's trying to get some quicker tech out. So in this case, I don't see any attacks. If my opponent was investing in infantry, he would have to get something out of those infantry upgrades and infantry investments, and he's not doing that. He's letting me have half the map, which an aggressive American player, especially an American player of Guderian's caliber, if he decides to be aggressive, you're going to know he's being aggressive. He's going to be constantly attacking you, constantly reinforcing, constantly pushing out. And as I say that, we have the M8 on the field. Now, I'm going to pause it and just point out what Guderian's doing. This is kind of, I know it's not really related to Volks Volks Sniper MG, but I'm just going to point something out that if you're working on your American game as well, is something you absolutely should be trying to focus on. Look at what Guderian does. He decides, hey, I'm not going to attack until my M8 comes, but the moment my M8 comes, I'm pushing in with everything I have. If we look at what is on the field for Guderian right now, he actually does have the 3 rifles. So he has 3 rifles. He did a very, very good job of conserving manpower in the early game during his early attacks. He didn't really lose too many units, and as a result he has 4 engineers, 3 rifles, and an M8. I'm just now getting my pack. As you see, it's only halfway done. So as we watch this flank unfold, he is of course being fairly cautious with his M8. I don't believe he has a minesweeper. Yes, he has a minesweeper back here, which is good. However, it's a decent distance from his M8. I'm going to want to be focusing that minesweeper if at all possible. My sniper, of course, in the back. Going to want to keep my sniper moving. Snipers are very, very easy to focus fire with an M8. It's very, very dangerous if you let an M8 get anywhere near your sniper. Now I'm going to be focusing down the flamer, of course. Flamer, one of the main priority targets. I'm going to hop out of the building and then probably hop right back in. Nope, going to back up a little bit. Going to back up with my MG. Yeah, I'm going to back up with my MG as well. And I did manage to buy myself enough time for the pack come out. For the pack to come out rather, and I have a decent hold on the map still. I still have this center VP. I managed in this time to send a few pioneers off to the left hand side. This is definitely something you should try to be doing all the time as Axis, is the fact that your pioneers without upgrades are pretty much useless in a straight up fight against almost anything an American player can throw at it. Engineers, everything an American player has can beat a pioneer unless it has an upgrade generally. So in large battles like this, if you don't have to be repairing stuff, or if you don't really need that little tiny ounce of extra firepower, it's always a good idea to send it around, cap around, because he's committing all of his units to the attack, and that means he's not going to have anything to push off your capping pioneers with. So that'll give you an opportunity to cap back a little bit of the map. You notice I capped back this +10, which is very important. I'm also going to cap back this point, and I'm going to keep harassing until he forces me back, probably with his M8. Now I also still delaying this med bunker. You notice I still don't have this med bunker, and the reason for that is I'm really respecting Guderian's aggression and respecting Guderian's ability to be aggressive, especially with the build that he has selected. I decided to plant a lot of mines, and I'm going to get my Shrek out, and the moment I get my Shrek out, now with my next 50 munitions, I'm going to be upgrading this this med bunker. Meanwhile, going up to 2 Grens, which is the standard, and generally I like to go 2 Grens in a pack and then tech up to tier 3. I actually don't remember if I did that this game. I'm pretty sure I did. Don't know. I'm assuming I did because a player of Guderian's caliber, given the situation right now, I managed to pretty successfully deflect his early M8 aggression along with the flank. I still have a lot of map control. I have a good handle on the right hand side of the map. It's a little bit risky to be building like another M8 or to be teching up to Shermans because that just takes so long, and as we notice right now, we do have bars. Chances are, along with bars, we're going to see a weapon support center and a counter sniper of some sort, or even just a sniper because of my grenadiers. It's generally a safe bet just because the presence of the motor pool makes an American player feel fairly comfortable against any sort of vehicle-based play, be it a Puma, tier 4, less likely. But given his tech early and the amount of resources he invested into that tech, I'm still pretty comfortable playing openly with my sniper for at least probably another 30 seconds or so. Then I'm going to get pretty defensive. I'm of course always going to be moving around cloaked just in case my calculations, my read was just a little bit off. Now I do finally have my tier 3 up, and with that in mind, I am retreating a pioneer. I'm going to be building that tier 3. Obviously I am going to want to get probably 2 Pumas and then a Nebelwerfer. Nebelwerfer is of course really good against AT guns, good against snipers because they force snipers to move. They deal splash damage. Snipers are very slow to move, so if a sniper gets caught in the middle of a shell or a barrage landing, whatever you call that, it's going to be not very good for that sniper. He's probably going to have to retreat. gonna force a triage center. Of course, the American player does have a triage center, as we see from all these healed up squads. And I missed my pack shot. That sucks. And this is another failed engagement for Guderian. And at this point, I'm feeling pretty good about myself, pretty good about my chances. Just gonna pause it. No, actually, I'm not gonna pause it because you guys can see what happened right there. Come on, there we go. Actually, bingo. Medkits. People do not, in my opinion, use medkits enough as Wehrmacht. I feel once you're safe, you feel like you have a decent hold on the map. You don't necessarily need mines because you have an overwhelming force of infantry units, combined arms, stuff like that. It's never, ever, ever a bad idea to spend munitions on low health Grens, really low health Volks, low health MGs, and obviously low health snipers. Manpower is by far the buying away. That doesn't make sense at all. It's by far the most important resource late game in Company of Heroes, and it is always something you want to be conserving, even at the cost of munitions. And I'd argue, especially at the cost of munitions at this point in the game. So that's kind of my philosophy. I know a lot of people don't like spending munitions on med kits. They'd rather just get a little bit of vet, spend the fuel on it instead. Of course, given my current situation, I'm pretty low on the fuel side. I'm of course getting a single Puma out. I'm going to have enough manpower for another Puma shortly. So that's where all my fuel is going right now. So with that in mind, that's why I kind of lean toward getting the munitions upgrades rather than fuel and veterancy based upgrades to heal my units. Of course, vet also takes longer. Now watching this little flank, watch the pretty little rifleman, pretty rifleman. See, I got a new computer, so I can record at 1080p with everything maxed out, and it looks all pretty and it runs all smoothly. It's all pretty, like I said. Yeah. At this point, it kind of turns into a standard Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 game. I have, of course, shown you guys a whole heck of a lot of those because that's generally, at least in my opinion, the best way to play Wehrmacht. Of course, there are some weaknesses. If your opponent outplays you, you're going to lose. But if you outplay your opponent, you are almost certainly going to take the win. With that in mind, let's just speed this up a little bit. One free grand on the field. At this point, I still haven't seen a sniper, so I'm not really sure what my opponent is doing. And excuse me. And I'm still playing pretty cautiously with my sniper. I'm taking a little bit of time in between each shot just to make sure it has a bit of time to recloak. I'm still laying mines. Mines very, very important. Of course, I still have this one mine right there, mine up there. No mine over there. I should probably get a mine over there. Going to want some mines on this right-hand side as well against harassing M8s, or the one harassing M8 rather. Do see an AT gun, so I'm going to, after the second Puma, want to get a Nebelwerfer out onto the field. I still do not have a Kampfkraft Center, but that will be coming up shortly. Once I have my 2 Pumas and a Nebel, that's generally the manpower-intensive unit production that I really want. After that, it kind of scales more toward reinforcing, being aggressive, and getting veterancy. Now, I'm just going to point out a little micro thing I did there. You probably noticed down here I force retreated I think it was a rifle and a pioneer. Or a rifle and an engineer rather. The reason I did that was because if we look at this squad, a Panzerschreck squad, very, very low health and no veterancy, is going to get chewed to death by bars, even on retreat. And I did not want to, lose that Shrek squad, because if we look at my munitions are pretty darn low. I've been planting a lot of mines. I've had a decent munitions income for the mid game, but I've been spending a lot of it on med kits because I want to keep my units healed up. I'm just now getting veterancy, so I needed all those med kits, and I've been laying mines, as I mentioned before. So my munitions bank, as it were, is pretty low at this point in the game, and 75 munitions being dumped into another Panzerschreck is not something I want to be doing. Now I do have my one Nebel. I'm always going to shift click the Nebel after I shoot it, because I want to make sure if he has an on-map Howie, he's not going to be able to see where the Nebel fires and then barrage it and then kill my units, or kill my Nebel rather. because a Nebel is a pretty hefty manpower investment. Definitely not something you want to just kind of toss out there. Tell your opponent, hey, you can take my Nebel, it's okay. Now, very, very big push on this right-hand side. Of course, I'm going to want to keep my Pumas back a little bit. As long as my Pumas are back here, he's generally not going to be able to push up too far. Now, given what I've seen, I haven't seen any sort of tech, and I see an AT gun. That generally means we're not going to see tank depot, at least in the early game. And there's the counter sniper, just as I mentioned that. Now, this is why you always keep snipers moving, because he actually missed that counter snipe. Simply because after I shoot, I make it a habit to always be moving my sniper, keeping it on the move, just right clicking it back, because one, it might move the sniper out of my opponent's sniper's range, and two, of course, there's the 50% accuracy penalty, I guess, bonus. And why are you decloaked? Did I decloak you? This seems dangerous. Anyways, I am getting Vet 1 on my Pumas. I believe I already have Vet 1 on infantry. Yes, I have Vet 1 on infantry. Vet 1 on Pumas is invaluable. I cannot stress this enough. Even if you only build one Puma, I'd argue Vet 1 is absolutely worth it, because it increases the number of hits required to kill it by an AT gun from 2 to 3. An unvetted Puma will die in 2 AT gun shots. A vetted Puma, as I mentioned, will die in 3 AT gun shots, which may not seem like a lot, but that's an absolutely enormous difference. If you run in and you don't see an AT gun and you don't have enough time to back out, 2 shots can easily get off, and bam, there goes your Puma. If you have Vet 1, you can take those 2 shots and you can still be perfectly fine. Now, my opponent's doing a decent job, Guderian doing a decent job on this right-hand side of locking down the right-hand side of the map. He's keeping infantry supporting his AT gun, so I'm not going to be able to rush the AT gun. And I'm not really going to be able to do a lot with my Pumas because of the AT gun. I can't really move it in and be aggressive. Now, I'm going to be trying to counter-snipe the sniper, and I'm going to be dealing as much damage with my infantry. But my Pumas aren't really useful in this main engagement unless he pushes up like this, in which case this Puma can come in and do a little bit of damage. So with that in mind, I'm harassing on this left-hand side. You noticed earlier, of course, my opponent bringing in the M8. But I'm still able to harass a little bit on the left-hand side. If I were playing better, I would actually be able to harass a whole lot more. I'm actually not harassing nearly as much as I possibly could. But I still have the entirety of the right-hand side, and despite my opponent's efforts, he hasn't really been able to push out into it. And as long as I keep my infantry and weapons team spread out, I'm not really worried about artillery. I'm keeping my Nebels moving at all times. I'm going to fire a barrage and then shift click a decent ways away just to get it moving. It's not going to be doing anything while it's moving. It can't even do anything at all. Might as well get it moving, save it, at least increase the chance of its survival if a enemy artillery battery is on the field. And now at this point, I'm going to be getting Vet 2, as we see right there in the infantry. I'm probably going to stay with Vet 2 for the foreseeable future, or at least stick on Vet 2 for a little bit of time, just because he still has a sniper on the field. And if he decides, hey, I'm going to get another sniper, that's really, really difficult to cope with if I invest all that manpower into Vet 3 right off the bat. I'm going to have to get another Nebel to deal with that. I'm probably going to want a bike, as we see right here. These are all very manpower intensive investments. And Vet 3 also a very manpower intensive investment, even though it is also a fuel intensive investment. 70 fuel, nothing to shake your head at in the mid game. Now, this bike, I'm gonna pause and just kind of point out the main reason for this bike's existence. It's not really for any sort of counter sniping activities. Of course, that would be nice. The main reason for this bike is this. The fact that I saw this and the fact that I'm scouting with it. Not enough Company of Heroes players put value into scouting. Scouting is invaluable. It's so important. If you do, say, an MG bike opening which is very, very popular, very, very powerful, and actually what I've been doing almost exclusively on Angleville lately, just trying to practice it and get used to it because I feel it's one of the strongest openings in the game for Wehrmacht. If you do an opening like that and you have that early bike, absolutely scout around with it. Poke in your opponent's base, see what you can see. Look at what I can see right now. Langres is an excellent map for something like this. Samoa, not so much. Angleville, to a certain extent, yes, you can do something like this. Langres, probably the best map because of these hedges right here and just the way you can access the base. Look at this. I see the entirety of the base. Even if he hides something down here, I see this motor pool. He'd have to put something way down here for me to not see it. And then even then, if I drive right there, easy peasy. I see everything in his base. And this gives me so much information. I see, okay, tank depot. I'm going to have to be a little careful about Shermans and M10s or Hellcats. Okay, that's a very, very important piece of information to have. That is absolutely something I want to know, something I need to know, and something that's going to help me as I progress in this game, just because I'm going to be able to, say, get another pack out, get some more infantry vet, because I know, hey, you invested a lot of money into this tank depot. You're either not going to do anything with it, and I'm going to have my infantry vet for free, because when you think about it, how much does this cost? 90 fuel, 350 manpower. If he doesn't build anything out of this, I can get vet 3, and I've spent less resources than he has on this. This isn't doing anything for him. My vet 3 is doing something for me. It's also an investment. Mine will pay off far earlier than his will pay off, especially if he's not building anything. And if I do get vet 3, he has to decide between, hey, do I build another sniper or do I build a Sherman? Both are very, very manpower expensive, very manpower intensive, and you can't really be doing both of them at the same time. So that was just an invaluable piece of information, a very, very important bike. And as we see right there, second pack on the field, just getting ready. I'm in a very, very comfortable, in my opinion, position. Do I have 2 packs? Yeah, where's the second one? There it is. I'm in a very, very comfortable position. I have half of the map. I have vet 2. I have a lot of manpower and fuel banked. I have my 2 Pumas still. I have 2 Nebels, I believe now. No, I only have 1 Nebel. I'm going to be getting a second Nebel right now. And once I get that second Nebel, I'm pretty much exactly where I want to be. I have 2 packs, 2 Nebels, 2 Pumas. 2 is the magic number for a lot of the units you want to be building with this strategy, especially in the mid game. 2 Grenadiers. I think I actually have 3 because... Actually I have 4. I wonder if I had built that third one or if I had gotten it for free. I know I got 1 free Gren from my med bunker. I might have gotten 2, or I might have built a third one, in which case I'm a filthy liar and I lied to you guys straight through my teeth. How dare I? Anyways, stuff's chilling, stuff's repairing. I'm feeling really comfortable. At this point, any sort of aggression needs to be backed up by either a vehicle or a sniper. Without something like that, it's not really going to be effective. And now we see Armor Company. And you're thinking to yourself, and I'm thinking to myself, hey, that's interesting. That's not really something you see every day. It's not really something that I would say is very powerful in the least bit. But it is definitely something for which special consideration has to be made. I am, of course, going Terror, and I'm going to be getting my KT, which is fairly good against anything the Armor Company player can really do. At this point in the game, we do have 2 snipers on the field as well, so it is good that I have my 2 Nebels. I'm definitely going to need those 2 Nebels. And this is kind of the point in the game where it gets hairy for the Wehrmacht player. We have artillery on the field in the form of the Calliope, meaning you really, really have to be diligent with spreading out your squads. You'll notice if we look at the mini-map, every one of my infantry squads are spread out. Not one of them is going to get hit by a single, or not, no 2 of them will be hit by a single Calliope barrage. And that's just because I want my opponent's artillery to be as uncost effective as humanly possible. Now I am getting the vet 3 out for the infantry. I do see 2 snipers on the field, but I already have my 2 Nebels. I have my own sniper who has a lot of kills and is still acting as a deterrent to my opponent's snipers, just because it's a little bit risky for my opponent to do anything super aggressive with those snipers while my sniper is still on the field. He has to be really, really careful with how he deals with that. I have my Pumas, which are fairly effective against snipers, of course, if they manage to catch them decloaked. And the nature of my opponent's strategy means he didn't really have very strong infantry presence with his rifles early game. He wasn't really able to get a lot of veterancy. As we noticed, he actually doesn't really have much veterancy at all in any of his rifles. Vet 1 over there. No vet over here. So with my vet 3, I'm completely head and shoulders above my opponent in terms of infantry power. And this is why you instantly move Nebelwerfers, because the moment I shot, he decided to shoot right at the Nebel, and I moved out of the way, which saved the Nebel. Now, my opponent being very passive on the left-hand side, I know he is teching up. I saw the tank depot. I also saw the second sniper. These are very heavy manpower investments, as I mentioned earlier. I'm not really investing as much in long-term potential. Long-term potential being something like, or long-term potential rather, not potential. Not a word, says the guy in 2 English classes. Long-term potential of the tank depot, as opposed to my long-term potential of teching up, which is an instant gratification kind of investment. You instantly see the benefit of that 300 manpower semi-fuel in getting the vet 3. I haven't really built any other base buildings at this point in the game, so I'm trying to push my advantage, because I know if I sit back for too long, my opponent is going to be able to tech up a lot, get a lot of higher tier units, and do a lot of damage to me, and I don't really want that. I need to be constantly applying pressure, because if I'm not constantly applying pressure, I'm going to be in a little bit of trouble late game when my opponent's armor company decision really starts to kick in, and he starts getting a lot of really powerful units out of his investment. Now, I got this half-track mainly to reinforce Nebelwerfers from Calliope barrages. I actually don't do a single thing with this half-track, and then it dies. So I'm not going to tell you it's a good idea to build a half-track with this build, because it probably isn't. And if it is, I'm terrible at it, and I am not the person you should be asking about using half-tracks with this strategy, because it clearly isn't working out very well for me. Now, this is kind of dull, lull, not much happening. A little bit more poking and prodding by the American player. Of course, at this point, I'm fairly well entrenched on the right-hand side, just kind of slowly pushing up on the left-hand side, forcing my opponent to come to me, forcing my opponent to engage, just because I want to be draining manpower as much as possible. Waiting for my KT, of course, CP and a quarter away, trying to bait out a counter snipe. My opponent, of course, not falling for it, not buying at all. Now, there is a little trick you can do with snipers, and I will... Oh, dope. Pause. Okay. These things. Those are prop war pamphlets. What I did was, when you tap the unit sniped icon, you tap it, it of course follows the sniper, and it centers your screen on the sniper. So every time you click the unit sniped icon, the sniper is right here at all times for that second that you clicked it, for that tiny fraction of a second that you clicked the unit sniped icon. The sniper is right here. Prop war can retreat cloaked units, and your sniper can shoot them. A retreating unit has a 50% modifier, just like a moving unit, so it's no different from a regular counter snipe against a good player, but it gives you a chance to actually counter snipe, because a good player won't give you that chance. Of course, this time I actually bungled it, and my sniper decided not to shoot. He was like facing the wrong way, and he like danced like he had to go to the bathroom, and then didn't shoot, and the snipers ran away, and I wasted 100 munitions. But at this point in the game, I don't use Goliaths enough. That's something I encourage any Wehrmacht player to experiment with this build, really with any build, because I feel it's an underused unit and can be very powerful, especially against dealing, or especially with regard to dealing with snipers. and any sort of mass infantry. It's very, very painful to lose a rifle squad late game for an American player, especially if that rifle squad has any sort of veterancy whatsoever. You do not want to be spending manpower on rifles late game. You want to be spending it on snipers, tanks, artillery, higher tier units. You don't really want to be spending 270 on a unit that doesn't have any vet, can't really do anything at all. Now, just waiting out the snipers, dropping, as we can see, Nebbles on the snipers, follow snipers, snipers chilling over here, not really doing much. M10 doesn't really do anything, but it does tip me off to the fact that he is probably going to be investing a bit more in tanks to counter my infantry as opposed to AT guns at this point in the game, which is probably a good idea in general given my kind of focus on Nebbles, making it very, 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 very difficult for a American player to successfully use AT guns. It takes a lot of attention, a lot of concentration, and it's fairly difficult to utilize effectively. So at this point, we do see VPs in my favor. There goes the useless half track that never did anything. I am down to 1 Puma right now, and I don't think I rebuilt it. I might actually rebuild it. However, we have an M10 on the field. We do have armor companies, so I have to be fairly worried about these tanks. Be worried, of course, about Allied War Machine and about field repairs and about losing Grens unnecessarily. I'm going to have my KT. There it is, KT. And KTs do pretty well against King Tigers. No, KTs do well against King Tigers. They're the same thing. King Tigers do fairly well against M10s. They like 3-shot them or something like that. And he pops Allied War Machine. Now, what you want to do with Allied War Machine, I'm just going to pause and point out what I did, because this is kind of a more subtle point that a lot of mid to high level players know they should do but don't do because it's a little tricky to pull off. But a lot of lower level players don't even know that this is kind of an option. But when your opponent pops Allied War Machine like this, you, in an ideal situation, want to get it down to a sliver of health, destroy the engine, and then don't attack it until the Allied War Machine wears off. And the main way to do this is, 1, keep handheld infantry moving. While a Grenadier squad is moving, it cannot fire its Panzerschreck. It has to be standing still to fire its Panzerschreck. That means you either have to attack move, hit hold position, or hit halt rather, or right click to attack something. That's really the only way the Panzerschreck is going to fire. Packs, of course, fire at things in their cone of vision, or their cone of fire, I guess, their fire arc. But if you choose to attack ground within that fire arc, they will just shoot at the ground there for a while until you instruct them to do something else. So you want to be attacking ground generally with packs, unless you know the M10, like this M10, probably not going to come in range of this pack, so I don't really have to attack ground with this pack. KT, tanks, also going to want to attack ground. And in related news, how pretty does that look? Let me see if I can do this. This is taking a lot of acrobatic skill, ladies and gentlemen. That's pretty. Anyways, enough of the ADD hour. I'm going to be wanting to attack ground with KT as well. And Puma's not really going to deal enough damage. So those are really the only 3 units I really have to be worried about. Handheld AT guns, and tanks. AT guns and tanks, attack ground. Handheld AT, either keep it moving or attack ground as well. That's also an option. But if you keep it moving, their infantry will still do damage to other infantry, and that's definitely a useful thing to have. So I'm going to say, hey, don't die. I don't want you to die. Please don't die. So I'm going to wait. It's almost dead. And it's off Allied War Machine. So, going to re-engage kill mode. And there goes the M10. I still have the VPs. I'm going to push up a little bit. An exciting finale awaits. I'm down 1 pack. Do have my second one right here in a terrible position. Just a brutal position. Now I'm going to, I think I'm going to want to, yeah, I'm going to attack ground on this AT gun with my Shreks. Come on, do it. Don't make me look like a liar. Kill AT gun. Kill it. Kill it. No, decided not to. I'm an idiot. I'm going to, though, I promise, really. I'm going to. I should, if I don't. Okay, I'm not. That's really, really dumb. Definitely want to always attack move on AT guns like that. Shreks do a ridiculous amount of damage to the actual gun of the AT gun, and it's really, really easy to kill it off with a Shrek or two. With that in mind, I actually have another Gren there, but I'm pop capped, so I can't get it. Just dropping Nebbles, ninja capping VPs. At this point, I just want to push on VPs. Not really much else to do. Gren's probably gonna die. Cap VPs a bit more. Kill an AT gun. And the final push with a bazillion M10s, just like waiting for the very end. Actually waited a little bit too long, however. This was a frustrating situation for me because I was like, hey, I have prop war. He can't cap the VP. He's armor company. And it was like facepalm, central, all that fun stuff. But I still have a ton of Grens, and I am easily going to be able to push him back, cap the VP back. Also going to run down here just to make sure I cap that VP back as well. And with that, it's going to be a GG. So there we have it. North Langres. Finally, after 2 South Langres games. As I mentioned, probably my favorite map, favorite starting positions to play this strategy. Hopefully this video gave you a bit of insight into why that is, how I like to play it, the kind of things I do specifically to counter 4-engineer racks. I had a lot of requests for 4-engineer racks games, so here is one. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, do not forget to follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/InverseTV. Subscribe to me here on YouTube. If you like what you see, it really, really, really helps me out a lot. It's, of course, youtube.com/InverseGR. Follow me on Twitch TV, twitch.tv/InverseTV. I stream almost daily, usually 3 or 4 times a week for a few hours at a time. I commentate every single game, for the most part, that I play after the fact. I will talk a little bit during games, but I generally try to focus a bit on the playing and try to give you guys some quality games. So I, for the most part, will watch the replay after the game and talk about my decision making after the fact as opposed to during the game itself. So if that seems like something you would be interested in, check that out. Aside from that, I always enjoy feedback, questions, concerns, comments, anything. Leave them in the comments. And thank you guys for watching. I will be back hopefully in a day or two with part 7? With the next part. Let's go with that. The next part of the build order breakdown. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.